All right, well, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. My name is Betsy Corcoran. I'm co-founder of EdSurge, and I'm an executive director at ISTE. EdSurge is a news and information resource. We're trying to bring you the best in education technology through news stories, research programs, community activities, and that certainly includes conferences and events such as this webinar. At the end of last year, EdSurge joined ISTE, the International Society for Technology and Education. ISTE is a nonprofit organization that serves all educators around the globe interested in using tech in education. Today's webinar is going to focus on how to do online learning for students in grades K through 12 during this crazy time of the coronavirus. We have an amazing panel, and we're going to dive into a very powerful resource. Before we get started, just one last quick note. This webinar is going to be recorded, and a recording will be made available to you via email after the event. If you signed up for the webinar, you'll also get some updates about other recurring webinars on this subject and others relevant to coronavirus. So I'd like to start by thanking the K-12 Foundation, which is indeed a leader in online learning and has been doing this since 2007. They're supporting this corona coverage with this webinar. K-12 Foundation's mission is to enable everyone to learn in his or her own way. And K-12 in particular pairs very high quality content with the latest technologies and then equips students, teachers, and parents with what they need, and truly for free. So there's a lot more information at ck12.org. And in fact, we are going to start today with a quick peek into K-12. In recent weeks, K-12 has become the 350th most popular site on the entire internet. And that means that it's really become a go-to resource for educators. We also have an amazing panel of educators who have been doing online learning with their students, with their schools, with their districts, and they have a lot of lessons to share. We know that there are quite a few people on this call, so welcome to all of you. And you're going to have a lot of questions, and we're totally into that. So let me offer you two specific ideas. Number one is if you have a broad question for the panel, please put it in the Q&A, which is down at the bottom of your panel there. You can even upvote those questions if you see a question you like. We're going to do our very best to answer those questions during this conversation. If you have a question about how to use some aspect of K-12, put it in the chat. We've got a couple of experts from K-12 here online with us, Katie and Carl. And they're going to type very fast and try to answer as many of the questions as they can. And we have an added bonus too. We're going to download the whole chat at the end of this webinar. We will answer all of the questions, and we will email you the final and glorious result of that. So you'll have a wealth of information. So again, technical questions in the chat and big questions for the panel in the Q&A. Two other sort of little starting points. EdSurge and ISTE have created a guide, Navigating Uncertain Times, How Schools Can Cope with Coronavirus. That collects all of our stories, contributors' comments, and some really helpful resources. Please take a look. You can find that at readiness.edsurge.com. And together, ISTE and EdSurge have also pulled together a huge number of resources on a site that we call Learning Keeps Going. We have a lot of other nonprofit partners who are contributing. There are more than 800 free tools there, an educator help desk, all kinds of things. So take a look at that when you have a moment at learningkeepsgoing.org. Terrific. So here we go. We are going to share, yes, so to Kika Bryant, we will absolutely share some stuff about that. If you could do us the favor, Kika, put that into the chat, not the Q&A, and we will again answer all the technical questions via the chat. So I'd like to start by introducing the panelists on today's call. We have some amazing people, and I want to thank them truly for sharing their time and their insights. Today, we're going to have Nina Granberry, who is a high school math teacher and attendance coordinator at Urban Assembly Institute of Math and Science for Young Women in Brooklyn, New York. We also have Duane Habecker, who's a mathematics coordinator at Merced County in Merced, California for the Office of Education in the county. We have Lance Key, who's an instructional technology specialist in Putnam County School System in Tennessee. And we also have Lindsay Kincaid, who is the Creative Development Manager for the CK-12 Foundation. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to start by asking Lindsay to take a moment to show you how educators are using CK-12's free customizable digital textbooks, which are called Flexbooks 2.0. Leslie, could you get us started? Leslie?
Let me unmute myself there. That's better.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for the introduction, Betsy. I'm thrilled to be here on behalf of the CK-12 Foundation and to show you how CK-12 can be a solution during this crazy time of coronavirus. Our panelists today are going to be talking a lot about Flexbooks and adaptive practice, so I wanted to jump right into a lesson. Here we're in a lesson that's in our CK-12 Physical Science for Middle School Flexbook 2.0, and it's on light and color. Let me move my window here, just to give you an idea of what all is included in a lesson. If we scroll down through a lesson, you're gonna see beautiful images, lots of charts and figures, and then what really differentiates us from other products perhaps on the market is that we're so much more than digitized text. We have interactives embedded right in the lesson. You will also see videos that we've either created or that we've curated that can play right within the lesson as well. We keep scrolling, there's more videos. There's also a CK-12 simulation that's been embedded in this lesson. And then the lesson ends with some summary and some review questions. Something that I want to show you as we're at the very bottom here is that one thing that you can do with our Flexbooks is that you're able to instantly change it into other languages. For instance, if you have some Spanish speakers, some English language learners, I can change the text at the bottom using Google Translate, and our menu options as well as the core text have been translated instantly. I'm going to go ahead and go back to English right now. As I scroll up, I do want to show off our CK-12 simulations. When I press launch, it's going to launch right here in my browse menu. And while our simulations are bucketed into the big branches of physics and chemistry, you can see that this one's appropriate for our middle school kids on how do we perceive color. And you can see a video that's going to talk through how to perceive color. And then if I move my window here, let's see, and then I can browse and go into the sandbox where students are able to manipulate different variables and see how the colors change based on color of glasses, the car color, the light color. So this is really a robust environment that I would suggest you look at the ck12.org/simulations. But I can close out of that and be right back into my lesson, no problem. I'm going to scroll back up. I mentioned earlier that we had an interactive up here. This is one of our PLIX interactives, stands for Play, Learn, Interact, Explore. And we have over 1,200 of these across math and science branches. And unlike our simulations that are full animated environments, these are a little simpler, where we have a red point that I'm going to move to move the light through the prism here. And then once I've interacted with this, I can answer some challenge me questions that are going to be true, false, drag and drop, multiple choice. We have hints for them. This is a learning tool, not an assessment tool, but a learning tool for students to explore this concept of light and color. And again, I'm going to go ahead and close out of that Plix, and I'm taken right back into my lesson. Another thing that you can do with our text that surprises some people is we have a highlighting feature. This looks like something that's kind of important, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight it there. Up at the top, I also wanted to mention that you can easily assign our content. If you are a Google Classroom user, you just have a single click for Google Classroom. CK-12 has classes that you can set up for anybody who needs to track student work. And then we also integrate with Canvas and with Schoology, and you'd use us from within those applications. So I'm going pretty fast here, but where you're gonna find all of that good stuff is this toolbar. Powerful features under your toolbar. If you have assigned a CK-12 lesson, you would be able to see insights on how your students did on that lesson. Things like how long they spent on the lesson, and even where they spent their time and where they might have encountered any difficulty with the lesson. You can also review related content. You can see that we have real world applications. We have additional clicks, videos related to this lesson. And then that highlighting that I just did, my notes and highlights would be here in my account for me to review at any time. So perhaps one of the most exciting features of our books is our adaptive practice. And so out of the toolbar here, at the bottom of all of the CK-12 lessons, we have adaptive practice, which is set up for students to get 10 correct. So I'm gonna go into preview mode here and just give you a little sample. But these questions are easy, medium, and hard questions that are gonna adapt to the student's needs. So I just happen to know, I think red is the longest wavelength. All right, happy, happy, joy, joy, I got it right. You will get positive messages if you get questions correct. If you miss something, it will tell you, you know, good try, keep working on it. Eventually, my skill level will change as I answer more questions. And again, the goal is to get 10 questions correct. So adaptive practice, definitely check that one out. Our Flexbooks can always be used as is. You are welcome to grab any URL from our browser and share our content, or again, assign it through the assign button. But you can also customize our content. So I have to show off, Duane's a panelist and he's gonna be talking about CK-12 today, but he's very quickly had to create, looks like over a dozen math and science books for 21 school districts within his county. I want to show you just one of the lessons that he created here, subtracting mixed numbers. This was a 4th grade math lesson. And you can see that he's created his own content, but he's still added images and some of his own graphics here. I believe this is Duane's work of showcasing how students do these problems. And then a couple of fun features is down below his own videos, which is on his own popular YouTube channel. There are inline questions, which is another feature of CK-12 Flexbooks, is that students can interact right within the lesson and answer some questions. And in addition to adaptive practice, users have the option to customize our adaptive practice to make their own quizzes. So here, Duane's created quizzes and custom questions to go with his content in the Flexbook. So again, I know that that was a lot of information. Again, Katie, Carl, and I are here to answer any questions you might have about CK-12, but I'd love to turn it over to the panelists and hear what they have to say.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lindsay. And thank all of you. As you see, we're using the chat to put in very specific questions about CK-12. So please feel free to keep putting all of those questions into that chat. Again, we will answer all of them. If not in this very second, we will answer them all in line and send you the results of that. And then if there are broad questions for the panelists, we will start here. So we're going to jump in as just kind of a quick overview. It's probably helpful to know that the whole idea behind CK-12 that the founder had was, how do we offer great free online curriculum, well, once we thought of as books, right, to all students for free to all schools. CK-12 is a nonprofit, and so they truly mean that it really is free and it really is available forever. And what's happened over the years is they have built out these really interesting tools that make it possible for you to put any content you want in them. So Nina, you have been, as you've said, you've been a math teacher, you've been a part of education for a very long time. Like all of us, you got thrown into this whole online situation a little bit kind of at the last moment. Tell us a little bit about some of the tips, some of the ideas that you have. What's helped make moving into this technology a little bit more comfortable for you and for the fellow teachers at your school?
Thank you. One piece of advice that I would give to teachers is to start small. There are so many great resources out there that you can get ahead of yourself and try to introduce all these new and exciting features to your students to try to keep them engaged. But really, from my experience in working with my students, they need time to adapt to the platform. So if I'm gonna use K-12 and ask them to do pre-work such as read a lesson, I might want to use that platform for a week and get students used to going to this particular website and reading this section on whatever topic, just so they can get used to it. Because if we expose them to too many things at once, then it's hard for them to actually take in how to become more like digital users to learn.
Absolutely. That's so profound. And in fact, we talked with educators in China who are a good couple of months ahead of us, and they said exactly the same thing, which is start slow, start by introducing very familiar content. Thank you, Nina. Lance, you've been doing online learning for a long time. You've got 12,000 students that you're serving overall, 800 teachers. Build on Nina's advice. What are districts doing, and what have you found it's really helpful to do as we've started to move teachers online?
Sure. So first off, I work for an online school, but I also work with teachers in face-to-face environment too, where they're working with students daily face-to-face. One thing that really helped us was we were working with the company Education Elements and worked on personalized learning for the last 3 years with their teachers so that they can understand what it meant to personalize this learning. And I think that's helped us to really break it down for that. The second thing that we did is we have provided support for every teacher before this with 3 levels of Google training. Myself, I'm a Google certified trainer and a Google certified innovator. So we really broke down how to use Google Classroom, how to use Google Docs, slides, and Screencastify, things like this in the past. Not really seeing that this was coming, but because we have did that, that's made our transition, I feel like a lot easier. And then we have embraced Zoom. I know Zoom has graciously given everyone that needed Zoom free. They took it on the chin a little bit at first with the security, but if you had all your settings set up and all your things set correctly, there wasn't any problems that we had there. But ours really started on March the 3rd. For those of you who don't know, in Tennessee, we had a tornado come through, and Cookville, where I teach at, was hit the hardest by the tornadoes that came through. So we had that going on, and then we had our spring break that started March 16th. So what we did was the week after spring break, we didn't bring our students back first thing. What we did was we started training our teachers on how to use Zoom, using Zoom every day. And I feel like because of that time to train and to help our teachers, we moved into that. But I feel like that there's so many free tools that have been out there. Our teachers can get stuck in the weeds with that. They don't have time to go and look for every piece. They need the district to be vetting, the things that they feel like could be helpful. So we did that. That was part of my job, was to start vetting all the things that were out there. And CK12 was one of those, the cream that rose to the top that we felt like was helpful. The other thing, being a Google certified innovator, you mentioned China a minute ago. I've got a really good friend that's in Macau, China. And the first thing I did was got on the phone with him and said, hey, what are you guys seeing? So it's very important that you have a deep PLN, and you can do it on Facebook groups. I know those have popped up everywhere lately. You can do it through Twitter, but it became our problem. It wasn't my district's problem. It was all of us Google innovators. This is what we're seeing going on around the world. How can we solve this problem? And we really started digging in, and what can we do? And it became so that all the work wasn't mine, but it was our work, and we brought it all into one place to help each other. So the last advice I would give is don't try to reinvent the wheel. Just find those pieces that's going to work and pull it into either your Google Classrooms or your Microsoft Teams or whatever LMS, Canvas, whatever LMS you decide to use.
That's terrific. We're going to come back to PLNs. We're also going to come back to a really interesting question, which has to do with special ed and how we can make sure that we are serving all students' needs. Duane, I want to give you a chance to jump into the conversation here too. You manage 21 districts, and your team, as Lindsay showed us, started putting on content online on CK12 2 months ago. So it wasn't like you had a whole long history of doing this. Lance has been talking about the importance of vetting content and curriculum. So how are you guys doing this? And in particular, how are you doing it with an eye towards making sure that there is equity in the choices of both the content and what's being made, how things are being made available to students?
Well, Merced County is a very poor county. Darn near all of our students are on free and reduced lunch. And so pretty much everything we do all the time is from that equity point of view. And so when we needed to move to that distance learning idea, we had to really think outside the box and how do we make it available to everybody? So money was an issue. CK12 kind of checks that box. It's free. It will always be free. So we were able to, CK12 made it easy for us to avoid those premium products that are giving away things for 30 or 60 days that will poof, go away after all this hard work is done. So CK12 means the hard work we're doing now is going to last way beyond this COVID-19 business. The neat thing about the CK12 itself is how easy it is for us to design stuff, learning experiences with universal design for learning in mind. When all the multimodal aspects that are available on CK12 just makes UDL so easy to implement. The idea to provide variety for engagement through simulations that Lindsay showed, the idea of we can easily embed videos either curated from YouTube or homemade by us. It's easy to implement games. So from an engagement point of view, we can customize and provide options for engagement. From a representation point of view with respect to UDL, again, well, you saw that little thing, the sample lesson that Lindsay showed of ours, and really that was a learning curve of about 4 days. It really doesn't, the crazy thing that CK12 does is the learning curve is really low. It's a simple, shallow learning curve to get up and running. So we were able to, provide for UDL with choice in representation, the words, the text, the videos, the adaptive practice, the interactives that we could embed from GeoGebra. Just it's so easy to do. And then lastly, action and expression is that third pillar of UDL where the adaptive practice that you saw Lindsay kind of represent, and you can switch that out and make it into a quiz. Everything, CK12 just makes it so easy to attend to equity for our kiddos, especially with respect to UDL.
Okay, terrific. And just to be, again, kind of to emphasize that or to underscore that a little bit, Duane, in other words, you had a lot of educators who were using a whole variety of materials, right? They were using textbooks, they were using lessons that they had built themselves, they were using other technology platforms. And so what you're saying is that it was possible for them to take a lot of the things that they had already been teaching and already using and deliver that through the interface of CK12?
Yeah, it becomes a really powerful platform that we can collect. Lance was kind of referring to the possibility, the very real condition of teachers drowning in a sea of resources. And so CK12 becomes that central housing platform where when it comes time for teachers to teach fractions, we can pull videos and embedded activities and all these things and use CK12 as that central clearinghouse for the kiddos. And it's just unbelievably powerful, and it has room to grow. So when we're done with this, all of our hard work is going to stay. It's got lasting power. It's going to leave footprints. That's going to allow us to continue to build on what we've done so far.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for the questions in the chat and in the Q&A as well. I want to go back to January. I want to take our minds back to January. And we started talking the other day, Nina, about what were some of the things that you wish you knew in January to really get your students and then even your colleagues kind of prepared. If you'd known, if you'd had that crystal ball and been able to say, yep, okay, we're going to be diving into this, like all hands in, what do you wish you'd known back in January that you know now that would have helped your students or even your colleagues? I would love to hear you jump in on that, and then absolutely Duane and Lance as well.
I think that I wish I would have known in January that we would have to just basically take away the training wheels from our students, and they would have to do a lot to learn now, like become independent. I was using K-12 and Google Classroom somewhat regularly with my students, so they were familiar. And I always am trying to build up their skills of being independent learners and their perseverance skills. However, if I had known that we would not be in school for half the year, then I would have just went even harder in those areas, like using Google Classroom even more to prepare them to be independent, because now they have to do that. And for some of them, it's a struggle because they were teacher dependent and not necessarily used to trying to figure things out on their own. So now that they have to do that, I just wish that I would have enforced that even more, independence, building their self-confidence, and encourage them to take risks to learn what they need to.
That is such an important point, and it's something that's going to become a feature of everything that we do going forward too. Duane, Lance, anything you can add in about what you've learned about how to do exactly what Nina just said, which is build that confidence, help students and teachers feel that they are independent learners, and help them feel confident even about experimenting in these new realms?
Well, the first thing that we did was we surveyed and called all of our students to see just kind of where they were at. Did they have food? Did they have shelter? Did they have devices? Did they have internet access? And luckily, Spectrum here in this area has chipped in and helped us out, that they provided free internet for anyone who needs it. For those that didn't have devices, we were able to get them Chromebooks out to them. And then the places that Spectrum couldn't go, we purchased 550 hotspots from Verizon. Our businesses and companies have really helped us out a lot around here to make sure that students could continue to learn. I pulled a report the other day, and I saw that 95% of our students have logged into Google Classroom now and are doing some type of learning during this time. So I feel like that number is successful. There's still 5% out there that have not, but I feel like that we've been successful with that. But just trying to know that we needed this plan in place. We lost a couple of weeks there getting everything put together, preparing. So we lost a week or two of learning, which I'm sure in the grand schemes of things is not that bad, but we couldn't move forward. We actually, the first week, had to move forward with just review assignments, just making sure the kids were okay and just getting them doing a little of something. So if we would have known and we could have had this plan in place moving forward, I think it would have really helped us to continue on with learning and our kids not missing a beat. So I feel like that we're doing pretty good, but if we would have known, we could have already had the plan going. We could have, there was many 16-hour days that we worked in there to get all this together and ready for teachers and ready for students. But that's what I wished I would have known, is to have the plan ready.
Yeah,
exactly.
mine's. I'm sorry to interrupt. Mine's similar to Nina and Lance in that prior, way back in the day, I wish we had. So Merced County kind of suffers from a pedagogy of poverty. Because we are so impoverished, we often have made do without technology in any way, shape, or form. Why have a school website if most of our kids don't have access to Wi-Fi? Why bother with email addresses? Because they can't email us anyway, so why bother? And so we've kind of suffered from that. So I wish we could have gone back and said, you know, there will be a time when we need technology. Let's start trying to get it going now. Because the moment we needed to, within a couple of weeks of pickups, suddenly every kid now has a Chromebook at home. We managed to make it work. And similar to Lance, our local Xfinity has provided tons of Wi-Fi access. So all of a sudden we were able, in 2 weeks, we were able to kind of rapidly fix this impossible situation. So I wish we had really been pushing technology before. And then connecting it to Nina, that would have allowed us to then start to teach that perseverance and that independence. And what do you do? And how do you become responsible for participating in your own learning, kind of a thing. And we're just so far behind.
Right. So I want to go back to some of the students who have special needs. We've had a couple of people in the Q&A point out that, you know, many of my students have complex bodies, complex minds, complex communication needs. Can you guys share a strategy, an approach? How are you engaging not just every student, but also some of these students with special needs? Would love to have some thoughts and observations on this from you.
So one of the things that we focused on in our district was we wanted to make sure that all of our staff was still being paid, meaning our support staffs and everyone else. So what we've done is our SPED assistants and things like that, they are actually still meeting all of the SPED requirements for our students. If it's a test that a student needs read to them, or if they need a text read to them, or they need modifications on a test, the SPED assistants are working through Zoom to provide that support for them. So we're using our people in a strategic way, whether it be through Zoom, through Google Meet, something like that, to meet those IEP needs for our students. Because again, that's our family too, and we want to make sure that our family's taken care of, and we want to make sure that they're still being paid.
And Lance, one quick question, follow up on that is, your specialists know what the IEP programs are, or are they doing any surveying or any kind of phone calling, or how are they learning what the needs are of those particular students?
So most of our SPED assistants have been in the classroom working with these students in the past, so they already know the modifications and things that they do need. So they were able to reach out to the instructional technology team, which is myself and Sam Brooks, and we're able to point them to the tools that they can use to do that, whether it be Google Translate, or it be using a YouTube and doing transcribing through YouTube and recording yourself, or Screencastify's, or Zoom meetings, whatever they're needing. We're trying to point them in the right directions of that.
Fantastic. Nina or Duane, anything you guys want to chip in there?
Well, it's, for me, I have special ed students, but I also have a lot of English language learners. So, and they're primarily like Arabic speaking students. This transition has totally like wiped them out. Unfortunately, it's been really challenging for them to follow along with the videos or try to keep up with the assignments on Google Classroom and just navigating everything in general. So what I do, I have virtual office hours every day where students can log in and I can meet with them in a smaller group, because right now I just teach one section of geometry for 30 minutes live every day. And then my senior class, I teach that 30 minutes live every day. So some students are too shy to even type their question in the chat or unmute themselves so that their voice could be heard on the airwaves. And so when we meet in a smaller group, I can answer their questions. My special ed teacher who works with me, she joins the office hours and she does a lot of outreach. She'll call the students or their parents to see how things are going. So we just try to do what we can to connect with them, to see if they're learning or what their challenges are, and try to meet them where they are.
I think this crisis is taking a huge toll on educators such as yourself, because that really is asking you to be on 24/7 in some sense.
Yeah.
We actually at EdSurge did a story recently about just how this like always on thing takes a big toll on educators. So you have to balance too, you're being able to be there all the time for every student with a little bit of a break for yourselves, because you're all going to burn yourselves out as well. This is hero work in the extreme. Duane, any additional thoughts and observations you have on that?
No, just to echo everything that Lance and Nina have said. I have, of my children, one of my children has Down syndrome. So this is near and dear to my heart, you know, the idea of, and he's one of the 60,000 kids that I serve. So the idea of this distance learning makes a difficult job of meeting everybody's needs, particularly fringe kids, right? Kids on the edges. It makes that job even harder. And what's neat though is CK12 becomes a nice partner in that. You know, the videos are the ability to curate videos, embed them, and then what we found is teaching people, parents mostly, but also our special ed teachers, how to just the notion of how to use a YouTube video as a partner in instruction. The idea of pause and rewind is something that we often forget. The ability to slow down the speed of a video so that kids who are tired of pausing and rewinding, they may be able to utilize that slower speed and still listen. Turning on closed captioning is a way for our language learners to not only hear it, but also read it simultaneously, which increases the accessibility. So CK12 just allows us to partner. It's a great, powerful partner in meeting the needs of all of our kids. Not only the video stuff, but just the nature of CK12, because it's Lindsay, you said what the motto of CK12 is, like, so all kids can learn in their own way or something like that. And golly, isn't that exactly what special ed is all about? Do whatever we need to do to help all kids learn. And it's just kind of neat.
I'd like to also ask whether, again, there are different districts and different jurisdictions that are recommending, 10 minutes online and then 10 minutes of work offline and come back and share, or for older students, maybe a little bit longer. We're not doing a great job of modeling that in this webinar. We've got you here for an hour, and that's a long time. So if anybody wants to stretch, please feel free to go ahead and stretch. But are you finding that there are strategies about come online, share this resource, okay, go offline, do some work, come back on and share? Are any of you trying those kinds of strategies, and are they helpful, or does it become harder?
So we have currently moved more like what I would call a flip format, to where our teachers are asynchronously making videos as they're sending out to the students and asking them to preview those, and sometimes even sending work out to students. And depending on the grade level that we're at, most of our elementaries and middle schools are meeting with our students 3 to 4 times a week. But for our high school students right now, sometimes we're only meeting with those students once a week. For those that are, staying up with their work, and those that don't need assistance. Now, our teachers still have office hours every day. So let's say Johnny or Susie is struggling with a system of equation math problem and they need help with their teacher. They know that they can pop into that Zoom link at any time, and that teacher can work one-on-one with them, and they can get more of a personalized learning approach than just a whole group, because we can provide that whole group through CK12 and provide them with the videos and the lessons and even the adaptive practices, and get feedback on how they're doing. And if I see a student who's struggling, I can just send them a quick little message and say, hey, I see you're struggling with this. Maybe we need to jump on during the office hours tomorrow and discuss this, and have them come in. But far as doing whole group every day, no. More pushing the content out, those lower levels of Bloom's taxonomy that they can do at home. Moms and dad can kind of just watch them and make sure that they're following along with what they're supposed to do, and then working with the kids one-on-one as we need to. Now, I have suggested for my high school teachers that they should make their students check in every week with them, at least once a week. Just do a quick check-in just to make sure that they're okay, make sure they don't have any, questions out there. And what I am finding is the students really want to get on and really want to see everybody and talk to everybody during that time. It's more of just kind of a wellness thing. But that's kind of what we're looking at right now.
Yeah. Nina, Duane, go ahead.
Just to piggyback off of what Lance said, we just changed our schedule this week. So we were, like I said, I was meeting or teaching live every day for 30 minutes. And then I do my virtual office hours in the afternoon for kids to pop in. But now it's broken up into Monday, Tuesday is live. Wednesdays, it gives the students time to work on the assignments that I gave them for the first 2 days. And then we do a second lesson or the continuation of the first 2 days on Thursday, Friday. And then they can work on the work for those 2 days over the weekend and turn it in on Monday. I personally like Inline Day that the students can stay connected. I am fearful of them not checking in every day, because when they don't have a routine, for the students that I teach, they will just distance themselves from school or from learning. So meeting every day at the same time, treating it like actual face-to-face school, helps them stay connected. And so I really take too many breaks in my 30 minutes when I'm teaching them, because it's only 30 minutes. I have started to we go over PSAT and SAT questions as do nows, and I'll post those 5 minutes before my 30 minutes starts. Just since we're not Regents exams at the end of this year, they've been canceled because of COVID-19. We still eventually, students will have to take the SAT to get into college. And so it's just another way to challenge them and throw different types of math topics at them so that they can keep the math fresh in their minds. I've tried breakout rooms on Zoom, and sometimes, certain students will speak and other students do not. So I'm just
let me pause you right there. Lance and Duane, just give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Breakout rooms, are they working for you guys? Yes? Yes? Okay, there is hope. Nina?
Yes,
there is hope.
Yes. Good. So I just try to, I do flipped. I'm just trying to do a lot of things to see what is working for the kids, because something that I think will work, it will work for some, but not all. And so I change it up. Like sometimes I will use breakout rooms. Sometimes I will take like a 2-minute pause and give them time to finish an equation, and then we'll come back. I really just try to go off of what I'm seeing as their responses in the chat and like how well they're responding to me.
Exactly.
To see which direction that I can go. So I know how independent or how much my students can be challenged. So it's hard to, I'm just trying to figure out what that balance is, doing it digitally, remotely, but I definitely was doing it a lot in school. So I'm just trying to find my mojo working remotely.
I think you are doing an amazing job. Techology, I think tech agility is what someone's saying here. And I think that's exactly right. We are demonstrating all of the, those old 21st century learning practices, that is what's being demonstrated every single day by everyone. Duane, one or two quick thoughts on this, and then I'm going to move on because we have a couple more questions that I definitely want to get to.
Well, sure. I mean, similar to Lance, we are using, and Nina, actually, first off, Nina, I'm with you. I'm mojo-less. I'm grasping for mojo. But, we're focusing on all of our instruction being asynchronous. We have families who are poor. They may have 3 or 4 kids sharing a single Chromebook. So the idea of all instruction having to be asynchronous is a matter of equity. We can't expect our kids to sign in at 9:30 in the morning to receive their live instruction because they have to share a Chromebook with 2 or 3 other siblings. So all of our instruction is asynchronous, but we do use that Zoom or Google Hangouts for the relationship part of teaching, keeping kids connected to school, keeping them connected to the learning. It's a safe place for them to join in, make googly faces with all their friends and stuff, just to keep that social emotional learning happening and keeping contact with the kids to making sure everybody's happy. In terms of the workload, this is the last thing I'll say is I learned this on Twitter and I've been just sharing it everywhere. Some school district somewhere said, okay, think of how much you might cover in a week, cut it in half, then cut it in half again. And that's how much you should aim for in a given week. Aim small and really focus on that relationship.
Yeah, Nina, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, one more thing. So I record all of my live sessions and then upload them to my Google Classroom. So the students, because I have the same situation where multiple girls, there are siblings at our school. Like we have some of the sisters will be in the middle school and then they're in the high school and there's only one computer. There's not a lot of Wi-Fi in their house. So we have to get creative. So if students can't join live, then I upload the video and they can access it whenever they need to. I also refer students back to the videos and back to the readings that I post, because I'm like, you have to find this information. We taught it, like I mentioned it. I want you to try to use the resources that are there now. And then if you have a specific question after you have done these things, then join me in my office hours. So.
Cool. Okay, so ready? We're going to do a thumbs up, thumbs down. How many of you are trying to do any kind of assessments online? Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Whoever feels strongest about assessments and has learned something, one comment from someone. How are you doing assessments online?
We're using Zoom proctoring and doing those through Edulastic.
Cool. Okay. Nina?
We're doing performance tasks through Flipgrid. Just record a 2-minute video and submit it through Flipgrid.
Great. Competency-based learning.
I use Google Forms. I also use Edulastic, and tomorrow on Friday, I'm going to try Quiz.
Okay, excellent. Okay, another thing. How many of you have trouble with parents saying we can't let our kids go online after 5 p.m.? Nobody? Okay, not a problem. Parents, get yourselves in line there. Any particular strategies for dealing with parents? Have you guys any of you encountered issues with parents? You've made the really good point, which is sometimes one machine is being shared by multiple siblings. Totally get that. But any other parent issues or family issues that have been a challenge for you all?
Yeah, so we have talked to many parents about this, and some of them have said, well, why don't we just shut down the year? And why don't we just be done? And we have to remind them that, ultimately we're trying to instill in these students to be lifelong learners, number one. But number two, we have got to prepare these students for next year. We don't know necessarily what's going to happen when this is going to be over. But when we do go back to normalcy and we go back to the classroom, for students who are taking Algebra 1 right now, they're going to eventually have to take Algebra 2. And if we shut down the year right now, we're just putting ourselves behind the 8 ball, putting our students behind the 8 ball, and we're going to lose, 3 to 4 months of learning. And over time, that becomes huge, because of the learning gaps that we have. And, you know, the manpower and the hours, we have to go back and redo pacing guides and have meetings on top of meetings on top of meetings of how to recoup that 3 to 4 months. And it takes years really to do that. It would probably take 2 to 3 years really. And then we're sending students to college that have learning gaps. So, you know, we just try to remind our parents, yes, we understand this is a difficult situation for you. It is for us also, but we're trying to do what's in the best interest of your child, and we're trying to prepare them for the future.
Are any of you offering either classes to support the parents or online tutorials or anything that actually help the parents effectively learn alongside with their students?
Yeah, we're offering office hours specifically directed on our county website, distance learning website. We are specifically having office hours for parents to drop in and receive support. And we guide them through how to interact with their school districts or their sites to get the information they need. And really, we're finding if everybody is flexible and compassionate, we get through a lot of this rough stuff pretty easily.
Yep.
We at my school have had virtual PTA meetings, and it's great because first of all, we've had the biggest turnouts ever by just having a virtual PTA meeting. And so even after COVID-19, I think from now on our school should do virtual PTA meetings, because having 50 parents show up as opposed to 5 just because they didn't come into the physical school space is like extreme. So that's the first thing. My messaging, I communicate with parents on my own through Scheduler. Like I send messages out. What I notice is parents are too lenient with their students. And I'm like, I need you to do 3 things. Tell your child to go on Google Classroom every day. Tell your child to go on Pupil Path every day. And please just ask them, what work did they do for school? Just do those 3 things every day. That's all at the very least, and then you will help us out a lot. So I find that parents, some parents are very dependent on us to do all the work, and that makes it pretty impossible considering that we're working remotely now. So we're teaching the parents, we're also trying to teach the students. I try to send them messages as much as possible to coach them on how to help me help them. So it's a process. I mean, I've been teaching for 12 years and I'm always surprised at how, I don't know if the parents are like, they think that they don't know as much as they do. For instance, like so many parents say like, well, math is not the same when I was growing up. It's like, I can't help my student with the math. And I'm like, you don't have to help them with the math. Ask them where their notes are from class today, and then tell them to read those notes, and then tell them to do the best that they can. If you do that, thank you.
There you go.
You don't have to know the content.
That's brilliant. So remembering to kind of give them those meta instructions that you can help. You just have to set up the environment to make it work. 2 more things. We only have a couple of minutes, and you guys have been so generous and so wonderful. Talk a little bit about the social emotional needs as well. I know this is sort of outside the context of curriculum, but you're teaching in different ways. You're connecting with people and your students in different ways. So it's kind of a 2-part question. If you want to share one thought that you have about how much you need to support social emotional issues, and then are you getting any support yourselves? How do you make sure that you and your fellow teachers are getting some emotional support? Because this is draining work. This is hard stuff. Any thoughts that y'all can share on those would be grateful.
I'll start, with that social emotional learning point of view. When we had to rapidly create all that content and post it on CK-12, we made the deliberate decision to not post a lesson per day. So we started with SEL in mind and in terms of under providing content. And that was just a very visible way to say, and that extra time that you think you're going to have, that's when we want kids to go outside and go on a walk, play with their dog, draw a picture. We are not giving you enough content to fill up every minute of every day. And so part of our distance learning website has some very specific tools for parents and educators on how to work in that SEL throughout this curious time.
Yeah, so first off, for our teachers, some of our principals have been hosting game nights. So all the faculty have been getting together and they've been playing, trivia games and things like that online. And it's been quite humorous to watch at times. Sometimes they'll have themes and be dressed up and other things like that, just to kind of break the monotony of what's going on. And there might be a adult beverage or two in a video or something somewhere too. So whatever works there. But then for our students, it's important, we feel like, to, again, have those check-ins with them, ask them how they're doing, give them a question. One of the ones I asked the other day, if you were a book, which book would you be and why? And let them just talk through it and communicate with each other. But then also some of our principals and our coaches and things like that are having a once a week, lunch with the teacher or lunch with the principal, and you can jump on Zoom and have lunch with them and just ask them questions and hang out and do things like that.
That's great.
Those are great ideas. I'm gonna have to still game night and the lunch thing.
I was thinking the same thing.
My school, I think they do a lot with SEL, the guidance counselors in that section of our school. So for instance, every day for like 30 minutes in the afternoon, they go live on Instagram, and then so many girls like log in, say hi to each other, or like this week is Earth Week, so they're like offering activities and things that they could do to be kind to the earth this week. So I'm not really involved with that part, but I know that we have different initiatives going on. The after school program that we had in school, they're still working with kids in like after school, doing activities like yoga or meditation or whatever they do. So for the students who are interested in that, they can partake in those activities, but they're definitely trying to keep the girls emotionally well also during this time.
I want to thank you all so much. First, a huge thanks to this amazing panel of folks: Nina Granberry, Duane Habecker, Lance Key, Lindsay Kincaid, for all of your thoughts, your insights, your creativity, and really for being heroes for our community, for our students, and for our families around us as well. I heard some great points today. I heard, how do you support the families in helping their students learn to become independent and learn to do things, even as Nina pointed out, if it's check Google Classrooms, folks. I heard about the importance of surveying the parents, of being in touch with them. I heard about the importance of not overloading people with content, letting them take it at a slower pace. And again, I heard very deeply about the importance of giving yourselves a pat on the back, giving yourselves some credit for the incredible work that all of you, and I mean everybody on this webinar, is doing 24/7. Finally, I'd like to give a huge shout out to K-12 Foundation, which has been an absolute leader in this area since 2007, and they lead with their hearts and they lead with great resources and tools. There is a tremendous amount of information available at ck12.org. And once again, you can explore their website, use the exploration tab, and you will find a whole range of no-cost resources that CK12 is offering. No ads, no cost. They really are doing it for free. They also have a pretty comprehensive certified educator program that thousands of educators are participating in from around the globe. Many of you are on the call today, and we appreciate that very much. So check out that program and other webinars available through the school year. Again, my name is Betsy Corcoran. I'm co-founder of EdSurge, and we hope that we are providing you with resources, news, and information. You can sign up for our newsletters and everything at edsurge.com. Please join me in giving a huge thumbs up. Thank you to all of the panelists and to CK12. Go outside, get a little fresh air, and give yourselves a pat on the back. Thank you for all you do. Have a great day.